The movie opens with the beautiful scenery of a college in Trinity, Dublin. We see a woman reciting Dante's Inferno in a literature class. She recites the poetry with passion and everyone in the class enjoys it. As she finishes reading and goes back to her seat, the professor, named Samuel, who is also the protagonist of the movie, takes to the stage and asks the class about the significance of the poetry. Soon he gives them homework and dismisses the class. In the hallway, a fellow professor named Susan comes to ask him if he would like to come for dinner at her home. He politely declines her offer, saying that he already has plans. She jokes about his plans being stuck at home correcting exams, and Samuel laughs it off. They seem to have a very good and friendly relationship. Samuel goes to his car in the parking lot and starts it when the same woman who recited the poem in class earlier knocks on his window, asking him for a lift. Samuel looks around first, and then opens the door for her. They go to Samuel's place and have a passionate moment together. Turns out the woman is named Beatrix, and she is Samuel's girlfriend in disguise. They have been together for the last 13 months, but Samuel has kept their relationship a secret for fear that the university would gossip about them. We can't really blame him now, but Beatrix feels a little uneasy and insecure due to it. She asks him if he loves her, and asks him to promise that he'll always love her. He strokes her cheeks and assures her that, yes, he loves her, and he will love her forever. Content with his answer, she goes to the washroom to wash up. Samuel gets up to feed his cat and finds that they are out of cat food. He goes into the washroom to tell Beatrix that he is going out to buy food, but he finds a razor blade in the basin. Afraid of the worst, he pushes the curtains aside and finds Beatrix deceased in the bathtub. Poor Samuel is terrified of the scene in front of him. He hurries to her side and tries to bring her cold and pale body back to life by giving her CPR. But it's all in vain. Beatrix has long perished. Fast forward to 1 year later. We see Samuel have a nightmare where he sees a terrified woman running frantically through a house. The atmosphere is eerie, with the wind howling and the trees rustling ominously in the background. The woman's face is twisted in fear, and we can see that she is being pursued by someone. She looks back over her shoulder and sees that the cloaked figures chasing her are women, and they have caught up. She screams with fear. Soon they grab her body and force her inside a ring made of white powder. The women perform a strange ritual on her with inaudible spells, as they put a sharp white knife to her throat and murder the poor woman. Samuel startles awake. He is sweating, and his breathing is uneven. A year has passed after Beatrix's passing, and Samuel frequently has these vivid nightmares that won't let him rest peacefully. He takes sleeping pills to escape them, but all is in vain. One day, after he has had enough, he goes back to campus to seek out a friend and talk to her. In the corridor of the college building, he finds Susan, who looks both happy and relieved to see him. She asks if he is doing okay, and he asks if her offer to have dinner still stands. Susan, being a very positive and supportive friend, confirms without question. Together they go back to Susan's place, and he talks about the nightmares. Susan suggests seeing a psychologist, and he says he had started seeing a grief counselor, but soon understood that it was not for him. Susan tries to cheer him up by saying that he should write about his dreams and become a horror writer. He laughs and dismisses the idea. Back at his apartment, Samuel gets a call from Susan telling him to switch on the local news channel, where he finds the shocking news about the same woman whom he sees in his dreams being assaulted and murdered in the exact same way. Samuel freaks out and meets Susan the next day, telling her about the eerie situation. Susan says it is a premonitory dream. She motivates him by telling him it's incredible, but our dear professor is freaked out of his wits. He goes off in search of the house and finds it covered with police barricade tapes. He sneaks past them and enters the house. Inside, he vividly follows the steps of the woman in his dreams and finds a hidden picture inside a frame with "White Ring 1968" written behind it. He puts it in his pocket when suddenly a mysterious woman barges out of the room beside him. He shouts for her to stop and follows her as she runs. Samuel catches her and assures her he won't hurt her. After a little conversation, they find out they have both been having the same dream about the woman. They both go to the place of the crime and look around to find that a door which they saw in their dream is missing. There is a shelf in place of it. They move things around and find the hidden door. Curious, they wander inside into the dark space behind the door and come out into an empty and gloomy-looking room with an aquarium inside. They look into it and find a round object with Dante's verse inscribed upon it. As they inspect the object, they hear the police sirens, and for fear of getting found, run. The elusive woman takes the object and disappears, while Samuel is lost in the woods looking for her. The next scene transitions to a nightclub, where two women dance and entertain the audience with indecent acts. One of them, named Rachel, has silver hair and everyone seems transfixed on her. As the night ends, she comes back to the changing room. It turns out that Rachel is the same person who took the strange object from Samuel and ran away the other day. She looks into the mirror, and her eyes emanate how miserable and helpless she feels. She comes back home late and finds her son asleep before the TV. On the other side, we see Professor Samuel looking up the term white ring online. The next day, Susan and Samuel discuss the white ring. Susan tells him her research about the White Ring, which was a literary circle whose publications were related to some mysterious muses who have been inspiring poets, writers, and artists throughout history. She mentions famous names such as Shakespeare, Blake, Keats, etc., who have all been inspired by these 7 mysterious muses. Samuel decides to find the people of this circle, and Susan agrees to help him. She's such a nice friend. Back to Rachel. We see her holding the mysterious egg. As she moves it near her head, she suddenly has a weird flashback. Her son comes in and asks if she is okay. She tells him that she is just tired and promises him that from now on she won't be back home late, as she is quitting her job today. Her son cheers up and they share a happy moment. Back to the professors. We see Susan telling Samuel about the people involved in the White Ring. Mysteriously, all of them met gruesome ends except one named Herbert Rauschen, whom they can't seem to find anywhere. The next scene shows Rachel meeting a man who turns out to be the club's owner. She gives him money and tells him that now her debt is clear, so he should give back her passport. The man becomes angry and assaults her. He tells her that she doesn't know the people who brought her here, and they are bad news, crushing all hope Rachel had of escaping that hell. The scene cuts to Samuel, who sits before his laptop researching the man named Herbert Rauschen. He finds a website where there is news of Professor Rauschen, who disappeared in a shipwreck, and nobody found his body. Samuel feels a bit off about the whole situation and wonders if the professor is actually gone or if it was all just a ruse. He asks his friend Susan to help him find his whereabouts, and she agrees to look for clues. Shortly after his meeting, Professor Samuel comes back home to feed his cat, but he can't find him anywhere. He calls after him when he suddenly sees the pale-faced and eerie-looking kid from his dream standing in his house. She orders him to bring back the thing that he took, or else they will inflict unimaginable and excruciating pain upon him. She gives him a deep cut on his hand and chokes him to the point he falls down, gasping for air. With a deadly warning, the ghostly child vanishes, leaving Samuel with a bloody murdered cat. Rachel, on the other hand, finds an opportunity and steals her passport from the club owner. The next day, Samuel wakes up to a knock on his front door. He finds himself passed out in the hallway with his deceased cat in a bloody mess. He quickly cleans it up and opens the door to Susan, who has finally found out the professor's address. Samuel tells her that it's dangerous and he should go there alone. Upon reaching the professor's home, Samuel mentions the White Ring to the butler there, causing the professor to meet him. Samuel mentions Lydia to the professor and tells him she has been murdered. He asks who or what the professor is hiding from. The professor looks skeptical at first, but then tells him about the women. He explains how muses are not just sources of inspiration, but also have a darker side, being able to inflict madness and torment on those who seek their favor. He tells Samuel to run if he does not have what they want, or else they will not let him be. On the other side, Rachel is preparing to run off with her baby. Back at home, Samuel finds out that Rachel works in a nightclub and goes there to find her. He finds a woman there who tells him Rachel's address. Samuel runs there to find Rachel covered in blood. The club owner found out that Rachel planned to leave and went there to murder her. Rachel, with an urge to fight for her life and save her child, fought back and took his life. Samuel brings Rachel and her child to a safe place and asks Rachel to give her the thing that they found at the murder site. She thanks him for helping her and gives the object to him. Samuel asks her to not open the door for anyone and takes the object to the place where the evil ladies asked him to. On the way there, he gets an urgent call from Professor Rauschen telling him there's a letter for him from Lydia, but he dismisses it. Samuel reaches the place to find the ruthless kid and a fierce-looking woman. The place looks ominous and is covered with cockroaches. He sits on the chair opposite the lady, who tells him she is the one who invokes among the muses. Samuel agrees to give them the object, only if they promise not to harm him, Rachel, and her kid. The woman agrees, and he gives the object to her. She takes it and after inspecting it, furiously crushes the object, saying it's not the Imago. Turns out our poor professor was betrayed by the woman he saved. The monstrous kid comes and whispers something in Samuel's ear, causing him to bleed from his nose and injured hand. In the next scene, we see Rachel being approached by the one who lies, disguised as Lydia. She tries to trick her, but Rachel sees through her lies, and when her plan is busted, she takes off with Rachel's son. Susan, on the other hand, is enamored with the 7 deadly muses. She looks through books and wonders where the 6th one, the one who punishes, is. Just on spot, we see Professor Rauschen being brutally murdered by the one who punishes. Susan keeps looking through books and wonders why she can't find the 7th one. Samuel comes back from the deadly meeting with a slit on his hand. He confronts Rachel about why she deceived him, and she says she couldn't give him the Imago because she remembered. It turns out that Rachel is one of the muses, namely the one who impassions. She tells Samuel how the others hated her because she was more human than them and because they couldn't be what she was. They punished her because she birthed a child, when a muse is forbidden to do that. After banishing her, they hid her Imago and sold her to the man at the club. When Lydia tried to help her, they ended her too. Rachel says that Lydia has been guiding them since the beginning because she could see the future. Rachel heals Samuel's hand and gives him the original Imago to give back to them. When Samuel disagrees, Rachel tells him about number 7, the one who hides. If they find and eliminate her, all the other muses would perish as well, but they don't know where she is. Samuel suddenly remembers the letter that Professor Rauschen talked about, and they go to his place to get it. There Samuel finds out the professor is covered with blood and cockroaches. He has been eliminated in an extremely brutal way. He freaks out and runs downstairs to find the letter. He grabs the letter, but the butler, under a spell, attacks him. Rachel comes running to his rescue, and they leave the horrifying property in one piece. They open the letter to find a poem. Samuel thinks it's of Milton, and they rush to Susan for help. Upon reaching there, they see the most horrifying scene before them. Susan's mouth is covered in blood. Samuel, with a torn heart, runs to save her dear friend, but to no avail. Rachel says that they cannot save her, and that she would devour herself. They tie Susan to stop her from her and call an ambulance. Rachel goes to stand outside while Samuel dejectedly asks for her help. Poor Susan, in her trance, can only utter that the poem is not Milton. Taking her chance, the one who lies comes disguised as Rachel and tells Samuel she would try to help her. He finds out a little too late, and poor Susan is thus murdered in cold blood. Rachel and Samuel, with no hope left, look at the poem and find an address of an asylum's room 1007 on its cover. They go there to find an empty room with a cupboard. Over it, the statement, "Promise you'll love forever," is written. Samuel's heartbeat quickens when he hears it, and he opens the cupboard to find himself staring back through a mirror. Rachel is shocked, and she tells Samuel that he is the one inside whom number 7 is hiding. She is inside his heart. How poetic. Samuel is shaken to the core. Who wouldn't be? Imagine waking up one day to find your deceased lover, who you still can't get over, is an evil mastermind. Rachel and Samuel decide to end this madness once and for all. She tells him that Beatrix will come out of his body if she senses danger. Samuel hesitates at first, saying he doesn't want Rachel to lose her life, but she makes him promise to take care of her son, saying that's the only thing she wants. They set up a ring and slit Samuel's hand. As he bleeds, Beatrix finally comes out of his body. Rachel forces her inside the ring, and both she and Samuel go to eliminate her. At the same moment, all the other muses arrive, along with Rachel's son. Beatrix tries to deceive Samuel into believing that she loves him, and that Rachel is the evil one, but Samuel won't have it anymore. With a single strong slit, Samuel ends her life, and the vicious cycle of agony that the muses have inflicted upon people for centuries. The movie ends with a melancholic tone, with Samuel getting heartbroken and Rachel losing her life, as Samuel pens it, the saddest story of them all. But on a positive note, Samuel takes in Rachel's son, and the world is finally rid of the evil muses.